individuals to go out and commit mass shootings, quote unquote?
No, I don't think they are at all. I think MK Ultra is probably causing people to go out and do mass shootings. And how many of them are real, how many of them are staged is another question, So, no, I don't think it's violent video games at all. I think it's this society. And I think a lot of them, some of them are just hoaxes, some of them are real, some of them are hoaxes. So, I don't think violent video games are the reality at all. I mean, I think the violent video games, the war games such as Call of Duty and stuff, these are used to program people into go out and becoming soldiers and murdering people in foreign lands.
Recruiting.
But as for murdering people in our own lands, no, I don't think video games have anything to do with it.
Interesting. Very interesting. I have often wondered if that was kind of used as some sort of recruitment tool because, as you know, Max, back in the 80s, look at how many people ended up becoming cops after the TV show Chips. So TV does influence a lot of people out there, especially here in America. Max, you know that. Lots of the majority out there, the ones who are perfectly content with coming home at a certain hour and watching their favorite television show and warming up their favorite TV dinner, they're perfectly content with that sort of lifestyle, Max. That's all they want.
Absolutely. It's a huge influence. I mean, there was a show that came out, I think, it was in a movie, might have been 1963 or something, called The Divorce. And the divorce rates in the United States skyrocketed that year that movie came out. That was the beginning of the breakdown of the family unit. Making a divorce look attractive to children and stuff, Get about there, be a free woman, So, absolutely, it influences people to an incredible degree. But you'll find that the TV influences them more than the video games do as far as shooting people up.
Very interesting, Max. I had a feeling you'd say that. I definitely don't feel that video games are at all responsible for some of this behavior that we see. And it makes me wonder about Trump and his assessment. I'm not sure if this was his real opinion. And, you know this, Max. Oftentimes, these opinions that we hear are not often their private opinion, opposed to their public opinion.
Yeah, all scripted. I mean, even when they had George Bush saying some of the weird things he said in public, I think they just did that to distract us, have him saying stupid things. I mean, Trump was saying about nuking hurricanes the other day as well. I mean,
Yes.
It's just stupid stuff to get people talking about what the right hand's doing, so they're not looking at what the left hand's doing, But, you don't program people with things like video games. It takes interaction. It takes auto-suggestion and neuro-linguistic programming and stuff. You get more of that from the television than you do from video games. Like, the film Divorce, it wouldn't have worked if it wasn't people having conversations. That's why they have two news anchors. They have a man and a woman there, and they'll offer this little opinion. Oh, gee, what did you think about? Oh, yes, well, that puts that thought into the people and teaches the people what they should think about the article that they just had on there.
Right.
That's why they have two anchors and they have a little comment about it. The comment isn't there because they're actually intelligent people wanting to have a comment. It's a scripted comment to make you think that this is the way you should look at this. So you need that NLP and that interaction in order to lead the audience in a certain direction. You don't get that from video games. Video games are just basically going there and testing your reflexes and your speed skills and all sorts of stuff. I mean, it's fun. I did a lot of video games. I don't want to go and shoot anybody.
Same here. I love video games, and I don't want to ever pick up a gun and harm another individual, no matter how mad or offended I am. I would never treat another human being that way.
No, exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty messed up stuff to actually use a gun on someone. But unless they have a gun and they're robbing my house, in that case, I will definitely have to use a gun myself. And there's plenty of guns here.
That's the thing, counter-violence. I don't believe in violence, but I believe in counter-violence. Not a problem. You should defend yourself.
Understood. Exactly. I feel the same way. I'm not against guns whatsoever. And a lot of individuals out here definitely want to take away your guns, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, Trump's doing it. I mean, he's saying he's not. He doesn't want to change the Second Amendment and all that sort of stuff, which was, essentially would be treason anyway. I mean, he's supposed to protect the Constitution. But, more background checks and all that sort of stuff. And like I said, the recategorizing of conspiracy theorists as potential domestic terrorists and all this sort of stuff. This is a pretty frightening trend, and he's kind of pushing that. So even saying, well, we need more background checks and blah blah blah. It's basically, yeah, your guns are okay as long as nobody who disagrees with anything we say has one.
Yes, that's the same way Google likes to do things as well.
Yeah, Google. Wow, what a joke that's become, hey?
It really has.
Even YouTube. I mean, what a joke. I mean, censorship is through the roof. They've got auto captions on your YouTube clips now. So if you say certain words, the auto caption picks it up and you get censored. So you've got to talk around things now. That's why you can't say the J-ish word. You've got to say things like the men in small hats. So
oy vey.
Yeah, that sort of stuff. Yeah. Because and that shows you. I mean, you're not even allowed to say the word. I mean, come on,
I know.
folks. What was that quote that to learn to learn who rules over you, learn who you're not allowed to criticize?
That's true.
Voltaire or someone like that. I mean, that's the way it is, folks. I mean, there it is. It's been delivered to you on a silver platter, and now you know who you're not allowed to criticize. Now you know who rules you.
Don't you just hate that?
Now you know who's got a pretty say in it anyway,
Don't you just hate that, Max, how certain governments, they just want to hold your hand so badly?
Oh, yeah, the nanny state. That's what they want to do. You need government to protect you. Who from? What? The other governments. It's crazy, isn't it? Oh, no, China wants to come and invade you, really. So China's going to jump up and walk over and eat America, is it? Well, it's not. It's a country. It's not going to do anything. The government of China may be a problem, but if the people of China were to remove their government and the people of America were to remove their government, then there wouldn't be a problem because you go and talk to China. None of the people in China want to go and have a war with any Americans. None of the people in America want to go to have a war with China. It's the government. It's always the government. The government's just, two sociopaths facing off against each other saying, hey, how many people can we murder this week? Make them think we've got a war. We're having a war with each other. Then at the end of it, they'll go and shake hands and say, oh, look, we're not at war now. Go and rebuild your cities, It's a joke. The whole thing's a joke. It's just governments protecting you from other governments. Governments are there to make you think that you need them to protect you. They create all these problems so that you think you need a nanny state there to protect you from everything. But really, it's just the governments. They cook up all the problems themselves to create the concept. They actually need these people to be there. It's like the bankers. We really need the bankers to look after our money. Oh, my God, we can't look after it ourselves. We need to put it in the bank. My God, what would we ever do if the bank wasn't there? Probably have a bit of freedom, So, yeah, it's a joke. It's a complete joke. The government says the nanny state to protect you from the other governments. It's crazy.
Government.
We don't need these people at all. It's a complete scam. Government is racketeering. Yes. It's extortion and racketeering. That's all it is.
Governments are always wanting to kill someone. That's what I've learned, Max.
Oh, yeah, they're really good at that. They love that sort of shit.
They do. And, of course, Communist China's 70th anniversary to parade, to showcase advanced military hardware. That's coming up here October 1st. And we'll be seeing all sorts of different toys China has been able to acquire. Some stealth fighter jet, some road mobile intercontinental ballistic missile also on display, as well as a submarine-launched ballistic missile will also be on display. So lots of excitement coming out of our friends in China, October 1st.
Yeah, and they're probably not even telling you about the real stuff that they've got. The really bad stuff, like the laser multi-spectrum laser displays they've got and stuff like that, which were banned by the West, developed by the West, and then banned by the West and sold to China. Why do you think they did that? Things that you can't even wear safety goggles against these because they change spectrum, just a bright flashing light which would change spectrum, and your eyes are automatically drawn towards the light. You're going to give it a quick glance. It'll even go through safety goggles and it'll blind you because you can't get any goggles that will keep out every spectrum, and it goes through rapidly random spectrums. And so you send this out and just blind an entire battlefield and just leave them there blind to their own devices. They won't die. So, that sort of stuff. China's got weapons like that, which are absolutely disgraceful, anti-human, anti-life weapons developed by the West and sold to them. So, I doubt that we'll see any of that sort of stuff, but that's the sort of stuff they've got. They're actually leading the world in some of the most inhumane technology we've ever seen.
Yes, it's very, very unsettling what's been going on around the world. And just to take you back to America here, I'm not quite sure, Max, if you've been following along in the American political spectrum. It's been kind of embarrassing for the most part. Of course, talking about the Democratic race to Trump, Mr. Donald Trump. I'm not quite sure if you've been watching any of that.
No, I haven't been, actually. I haven't been keeping up with American theatrical politics. I mean, it's all theatre.
It is, big time.
It's all theatre for the masses. It doesn't matter who wins it. I've said it doesn't matter if Trump or Clinton got in. I mean, Trump doing things his way, but I don't think Clinton was ever designed to get in. I mean, I thought she was, but I don't think that she was. I think Trump was always meant to get in there. And it's all theatre for the masses. I've said so many times, you can put a piece of toast in the president's chair and put a little smiley face on it with ketchup. And right. You do the same. You have the same result. It doesn't matter who you put in that chair. You're going to get the same result because the president doesn't run the country. He's a mouthpiece. You know, it's all the advisors that sit behind him who run the country.
I agree 100%. I've been saying that all along here, and I'm glad you definitely feel the same way. That's just the talking head for our president, really. That's basically our mascot, is really what it comes down to. And
yeah, but you needed someone like Trump to create the incredible polarization that we're seeing with American society. You know, really, really split American society into two camps, the Trump presidency, more than any other president would have done, you know. And someone just posted the King of Israel. Yeah, that's what I've often said, is that he's the greatest president Israel's ever had.
Well, I'm not going to argue.
Even so, the Israelis are saying he's the second coming because of all the stuff that he's done for Israel. Israel's had so much leeway to do whatever it wants since Trump took office, and that should be, you know, obvious for everybody to see, and that should be very telling for everybody as well, you know.
Yes, sir. And of course, one of the most recent developments, allegedly, I should say, a new poll indicates there's some sort of three-way tie, or a three-way dance, as I like to call it, for the Democratic nomination. Sanders, Warren, and Joe Biden. And, of course, Sanders and Warren are doing quite well for themselves. And I feel Joe Biden, he's going to eventually get buried pretty hard as we go along here. And the real question is America ready for a female president? That's a question I asked last time, and it was quite controversial. Some people didn't want to call in because they were so offended. So they took to their emails, Max, and let me know their opinions on that question.
Yeah, well, you know, if there is a female president, it would be the only way to get Trump out of office. And it would be the change that people want to see, the same as the change that was Obama and the change that was Trump. It's just the next theatrical move, you know.
Yes.
It'd be the same thing. Put a female piece of toast in there and use different coloured ketchup, you know.
Hey, this is P.T. Barnum, my friend, and everyone is eating it up, as I like to say.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be the only way to get Trump out of office and make it seem like he was such a bad thing, which would be, they might do that just to throw the truth community a bone again. So all the people that have been on the Q train would think, oh, the Q was right, see, you know, right. So, yes. You know, the Q train's been incredible. Let's get people in action for the last 2 years, just sitting there eating popcorn, waiting for the big change that's about to happen. It's imminent. It's like disclosure that they've been going to do since 1976, you know, so... Yeah, that'll be the only way they get Trump out of office. But they'll do that. They may even let Trump stay in there for another term. But then I wouldn't be surprised if the next president is female, because that's the only way they're going to get people to actually believe that there's going to be some change in inverted commas. Then at the end of that, when they find that there wasn't any change, well, they might realise that the whole thing's been theatre from the beginning.
He has done a good job so far, though. Donald Trump, slightly, compared to what he was running against. That's the unfortunate part here. But Trump hasn't exactly been the devil in disguise, as they say.
Well, no, I mean, he's what he's done though. If you look at when you say he's done a good job, he's kind of promoted isolationism. He's distanced America from Europe. He's distanced America from China. A lot of the farmers in America will tell you that it's been incredibly difficult for them since Trump took office because of the tariffs and stuff.
That's true.
So
I guess it depends
He's
who you
made
ask.
things easier on the ground for some sections of American society, but if you look at it on the world stage,
The globals, yeah.
what he's done as far as isolationism in regard to China and Europe and the support that he's given to the absolute destruction of Yemen through his support through Saudi Arabia and his support for the state of Israel, which is a rogue state, this should speak volumes to anybody. If you look at the world stage, the agenda hasn't changed at all. It's actually escalated since Trump took office. I mean, Israel's been able to get away with stuff it never would have gotten away with if there'd been another president. Now, what they say, they're calling him the second coming. The amount of arms sales going out to Yemen and the terrible situation that's been constructed in Venezuela and in Iran as well. Americans still believe Iran is some sort of a threat to them. It's crazy. Iran hasn't attacked another country in 270 years. Doesn't want to go to war with America. And what's happening in Venezuela is a humanitarian crisis, which Trump is really, really pushing. So, I don't think that he's a good guy at all. I think he's just doing stuff on the ground to keep Americans on his side so he can continue the globalist agenda of sticking their shaft in the rest of the world the way they've already been doing,
I'm with you on that one. And, of course, I must mention here, I do like some of the candidates that are female, like Tulsi Gabbard woman. She's not so bad, as well as Marianne Williamson. She's a wild one. She's kind of insane, so that's kind of why I like her.
Well, yeah, but you've got to understand that she's entering into an insane system, so it doesn't matter even if she's got some good quality points. Once she gets in there, she's going to be constrained by the office itself,
Yeah, she's going to be
because
compromised.
that's what the office is about, She's going to be compromised. She'll just be another mouthpiece for the same agenda, being told what she's told to say. That's just the way it goes,
It really is. It's quite sad to see that. But that's what's going on right now here in American politics. And, of course, Trump back in the headlines yet again, a big shocker. But this time becomes from a personal aide now that had some sort of strange night out where she was drunk and made some sort of disparaging comments about his family, especially about his daughter, and some sort of a weight issue. Or apparently this woman, this aide, her name, I believe, is Madeline Westerhout. I'm not quite sure if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, but this woman, she was the longtime personal assistant and Oval Office gatekeeper. Yes, this woman, Madeline, that we're talking about. Apparently, she was drunk one night and made some off-the-record comments about Trump and his daughter, Tiffany, being overweight. And I'm curious what you thought about that. Do you think he actually said something like that, Max, about his daughter, Tiffany?
I would not have a clue. I wouldn't have a clue. It wouldn't surprise me. He's a pretty arrogant sort of a guy. But I wouldn't have a clue. I mean, half of this stuff's probably cooked up. It's all irrelevant anyway. I mean...
Pretty irrelevant, yes.
It's just all this stuff to keep people gossiping about all these little things that don't mean anything. It's like people dancing with the stars or whatever,
Oh, Lord, yes.
It's theatre. It's just a little puppet show.
It is. It's quite silly.
And they can think that's something important. Oh, gee, he said something terrible about his daughter, but he's supplying $1.2 billion worth of arms to Saudi Arabia so they can carry out genocide in Yemen. No one's talking about that. That's just there on the back burner, you know what I mean? Oh, but what he said about his daughter. People need to look at their priorities here with all this sort of stuff. And you've got to understand that even with the Chinese system, the Chinese government, they all work together. The whole Kim Jong-un thing, and look, Trump went to North Korea and North Korea has been a CIA state since it was invented. We got to look into it. Since the Korean War, the whole thing's been run by the CIA. It was a puppet show. It's just there to make it look like he's bridged this gap between North Korea. They all work together. You can think of all world governments as being a worldwide, multinational, multi-generational criminal cabal which has insinuated itself over every country and is masquerading as government. Each country is kind of like a department store with all their chattels and goods and chattels in there, and they all work together. It's one big crime gang. We don't need government at all. That's the problem, So all of this stuff is theatre, the left and the right and people in there. And people, if you're working within that system, you've entered into a corrupt system, which is corrupt from the ground up. That's the way it is. So don't think you're going to be able to make a change if you're not entering government with the sole intention of reducing the size of government to the point that we don't need it anymore. Then you're just part of the agenda. It doesn't matter. There's no way you're going to make in there and bring in policies and all this stuff and actually make a difference. What you've got to do is go in there and reduce the size of government and get people back to a point where they're empowered enough to govern themselves. That's what we need.
Understood. Would you be in favor of an all open source government, Max, if that was even possible? Some people have proposed that sort of idea, but I think that's sort of living in a fantasy world, as you know, Max. Man is wolf to man.
It's a fantasy world because, unfortunately, too many people are not intelligent enough for open source government. I mean, that might be an unsavory thing for people to want to hear, but it's true. If you look at the general mentality of society out there, I mean, some of these people, honestly, they couldn't manage a pretty cake stall. You want them to help, have a say on what happens in government. Most people will be voting for cash in their own pockets, no matter which way it goes. Even when you look at the political system, who are the candidates you vote for? Most people vote for the candidates which promise them the biggest tax breaks, so they get more cash in their pocket. Most people vote with their pockets.
Yes.
Even in an anarchist society, when I say we need to reduce government to the size we don't need them anymore, and we're back to a state of anarchy and self-governance, this would take a couple of generations to do, or at least one full generation to do, because people at the moment are simply not capable of governing themselves. They're not intelligent enough to govern themselves. They don't have enough information to govern themselves. And you can just see this via YouTube and Facebook and all these places. This is what you do. You give everybody in the world a soapbox so nobody gets hurt. That way the intelligent people that have got something that people really need to hear don't get their voices heard because you can't hear them above the cacophony of everyone else shouting and wanting to put their 2 cents worth in. So, great idea, open source government. Possible in this state of human consciousness? No, absolutely unrealistic.
Right.
We need some sort of someone to get in there and revamp the education system, revamp the political system, create an education system where people are actually educated again, taught real history, taught real things about life. And like I said, it would take at least a full generation, if not 2 or 3, to lead us back to a point where we are capable of looking after ourselves again. It's been a process to bring us to this point. It's been a process, a deliberate dumbing down over generations, and you can't simply flick the switch and turn back to freedom because people are not competent enough to deal with it. If people were left to their own devices, societies would start eating themselves within a week. People wouldn't know where to go if they were left to their own devices.
No, I'm with you.
That's the sad reality.
It is. That's true. And that's the problem, though, Max. Like we were talking about earlier about society and how we're doing now, we are a very small percentage that think this sort of way, Max, even though you've had lots of views and you go and talk to all these people, and it seems like we're a big sort of statistic, but we're not. We're not a big group of individuals out there. We're very small in terms of numbers, and that's kind of the hard part, how to reach the other masses out there, that part of society out there. Most of society, as you know, Max, and I'm sure you agree with this, they have become completely numb in America. Most have become apoplectic and even apathetic, myself included at times, Max.
Yeah, they have. It's an unfortunate thing, the fluoride, the electromagnetic bombardment, and just the hopelessness that people see of the situation because people think the machine's too big and they can't do anything about it, That's all I've said, if people were to change their perspective and simply realise who and what they are, we could change the world in a day. If people suddenly stepped into their moral compass, if they refuse to comply with wrong behaviour, if they refuse to comply with any legislation which complements wrong behaviour or causes them to step outside their moral compass, then we change the world in a day. If people did the right thing in all that they do, and if people literally had the epiphany to realise the power of themselves, like some of the stuff I've attempted to share with you today, and just realise that the true awesomeness of being alive, we change the world in 3 seconds. Just bang, shift perspective and walk away from this system in mass. We could do it in a day, but will people do that? No, but they won't because they're afraid, they're in fear of what might happen if they do, So That's the sad situation that we're in, and we are in a minority. So what you can do is be the best person you possibly can be. Be a pleasure to be around. Influence people in that way. Get out in the real world and just be an absolute shining light. Give to people as much as you can. Help people. Help everybody you can. And be yourself. Be comfortable in being yourself. Like I said, face infinity without flinching, and you'll make a difference. And that's what I do in my everyday. This is how I approach every situation that I'm in, and my approach is every day. I try to improve somebody's life. I try to do a random act of kindness every day. When I go out and do something, I'll do something for somebody somewhere. Every day I do something. So that's how we make a difference. Don't be afraid to be yourself. Is how we make a difference. But don't think we can save the whole world. We can't. I mean, I even wonder about the whole concept of void portals wandering around, non-participating players, as they call them, so I think there's a lot of that as well. There's a lot of stuff out there. It only took like 1% of the population to bring about the United States Revolution, the Civil War or whatever it was, the American Revolution. So, we don't need all the people to wake up. All we need is those who are awake to apply themselves to reality in the correct way, and we will make a difference.
Understood. And what about the individuals out there in Australia, in your stomping grounds, Max? I haven't really talked to you at all about those individuals out there and where they are mentally in terms of what's going on around them in their country, and as well as America, and if any of them are actually paying attention to what's going on out here as well, or are they just living their lives like anyone else? What's going on?
Well, I lovingly call this country Apithralia. So
beautiful.
That's the general zeitgeist of the population. But, we actually have seen a reasonable amount of activity rising now because of the 5G rollout and the smart city that they want to bring in Darwin. I've seen people that I wouldn't even expect to be activists becoming active in regard to 5G. We've had a huge groundswell of people getting on board with this. So, I think, like I said, they're stumbling over themselves. They're doing things too fast. They've really messed things up this year with Christchurch, with this Epstein shooting, the rollout of 5G so quickly. Everything they're trying, they're pushing it so quickly. I think that we've upset their plans a little bit, and they've had to escalate things a little bit. So, stuff that was going to take 5 years, they're now trying to push through in one. And people are seeing it now. People are seeing that, hang on, this is not right. And so we're seeing a reasonable amount of people standing up now in Australia. I'm really pleased with the amount of activism I'm seeing on the 5G front and the Wi-Fi front and all that sort of stuff here in Australia. So I've actually been able to step back from that a little bit because there's now major sections of the community who are not conspiratorially minded at all, who are going out there and challenging council and getting barristers involved and really getting involved on the ground themselves. So, I mean, it's a good thing. I think we are seeing a certain amount of wakefulness happening. And, a little bit in their own way. People can't be woken up to the entire situation that we're in. They need little bits at a time. And I think 5G is causing that shell to crack a little bit with people. So that's a good thing.
Before we jump into 5G, I just wanted to quickly mention perhaps one of the reasons why those in Australia are not too keen on some of the things going on is probably because they're more concerned about what things can actually kill them out there. It seems like any insect or animal out there can just take you out of commission, Max.
No, I think you hear a lot of propaganda about that in the United States. I mean, I've lived here my whole life, and it's really not as bad as you think. We hear reports the Japanese call Australia the giant island of death. Everything wants to kill you. It's really not that bad. I mean, we see the odd snake, the odd spider or whatever, but it's not that bad. The people that live in Australia don't even think about it. So that's not the concern. I think what's keeping them back more than anything is the fluoride in the water, possibly the lithium they're spraying in the skies, and the propaganda and mind control they're getting from the television and from their smartphones.
I thought it'd be the box jellyfish out there.
Well, you know what seasons they're coming, and you know where not to swim, so it's all good. We don't worry about it. There's lots of stuff that wants to kill you, but it doesn't worry you at all if you live here.
What about any kangaroos? Do you have any sort of stories about going heads up against one of those?
No, they don't bother you. Like, there's no roos around here where I live. You might see the odd wallaby. But, they keep to themselves. They're just eating grass and stuff. They don't want to fight you or anything like that, not unless you want to go and harass them.
That's true, yeah.
So,
Amazing.
People that go and try to steal joeys or whatever, they might go and get into trouble. But, no, you don't get any of that. It's lots of legends that you hear about this place that simply aren't true.
It's overhyped then. People are exaggerating.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Understood. So, Max, let's get a little bit into 5G here for the last remaining 30 minutes of this program. And I understand you've been quite busy this month and coming up next month even then. You're going to be quite busy going to that conference in Philadelphia, as you said.
Yeah, that's actually next week.
Or next
Philadelphia.
week.
I head to Philadelphia. That'll be not next weekend, the weekend after I'll be in Philadelphia. So, yeah, I'm going to be pretty busy from next week until about October 22nd. So shows are going to be a little intermittent on the radio show. I'll just see what I can do about getting information out to people. But, yeah, going to be pretty full on for the next 6 weeks.
Very nice. So you definitely are busy, and you've been to Philadelphia before, so you know what to expect out there. And I definitely want you to tell us just a little bit about 5G and what you will be talking about out there. Just a sample.
Well, in Philadelphia, I'm not even really going to touch on 5G that much in Philadelphia. I want to mainly talk about history and where we're going. I'm only going to be doing a 30-minute talk at Arkadelphia, but then I've got a couple of workshops and a couple of panels and a few things to do from that. So, I mean, with these talks, I don't usually prepare them. I kind of go there and it's what I'm feeling on the day. So I kind of ad-lib most of them. If I've got a slideshow, sometimes I'll put a slideshow together to keep me on some sort of track, but I'm not actually preparing anything for the talk in Arkadelphia, and I'm not preparing anything for the talk in Mount Shasta. I just want to kind of feel the crowd.
Improv, then,
open my mouth and start talking and see what comes out,
I like that.
That's the way I do the radio shows as well. I kind of go in there with the opening quote. I might have a vague idea of what I want to talk about, but the shows tend to go off on so many tangents and cover so much ground because I don't have anything scripted. I don't really know where I'm going when I start. I just know that I have to talk for an hour, so I just start talking and see where it ends up. And I kind of like it that way because I reach areas that I wouldn't normally reach, and sometimes I can get onto a thought flow and I can have ideas that I wouldn't have otherwise thought of. Some of the stuff you hear on the radio shows, it's the first time I've even thought of that stuff when I say it sometimes because it's just the way my thought flow has gone. When I'm asking questions of the audience, and that's basically what I do with the radio shows and what I do with the presentations is I encourage people to ask the questions because, too many people go in there and pretend they're an expert on all these things and ultimately we don't know too much about anything really if people are just prepared to be honest about it. It's encouraging people to ask the questions to begin with, which I think is the big awakening moment, just asking those questions,
Yeah, that's one thing I hate about those individuals out there who host a show of their own. Lots of times they'll bring in a guest and they'll give that sort of perception that they know more than the person they're bringing on to talk about that subject. I always wondered, why would you have this individual on if you are the so-called expert? What's the point of that?
Yeah, a lot of people tend to do that. It's a strange thing, but I don't like even being termed an expert on anything. I find the title very, very uncomfortable because, as I said, the only thing I'm an expert on is myself.
Right.
And I'm not even an expert on that. I'm still learning about that. So,
Yeah, you have a lot of pretentious individuals out there, especially those who call themselves journalists as well.
Well, yeah, I mean... Yeah. I mean, what's a journalist? Someone who writes a journal. That's all you got to do is write stuff down. But is your opinion valid? Does that make you a journalist,
Indeed. And, of course, we are heading towards that line now where I do want your thoughts and opinions on a few names here. And one of them that does come to mind is one Alex Jones. He was one of the very first people in our modern times to get deplatformed and given the whole 5-star treatment, frozen assets, platform removal. And, of course, Max, it seems like maybe that might happen to you sometime. Maybe that might even happen to me sometime, too.
Well, yeah, it could. It could well happen. I mean, I've got a strike against my channel at the moment. I can't upload to my channel because of an interview that I posted the other day.
Oh, no.
I mean, Alex, I don't know whether I trust Alex or not. I mean, maybe some people say he's controlled opposition. You know, maybe he's just an opportunist. Maybe he just chooses not to say certain things that he should say. I know he's definitely a sensationalist.
All of the above.
Definitely a lot of clickbait and all that sort of stuff. But, you know, I think he serves a purpose. He probably woke a lot of people up. But then I wonder how much of that is contrived as well. When I look at the whole truth movement and the 9/11 truth movement, I mean, he's gone back on a lot of the stuff he said back in the early days. So, and when I look at the concept of the externalization of the hierarchy, you know, I mean, the powers that believe they be want this information getting out there. You've got to look at the truth movement. Why do they let us do what we do? You know, there's a reason for it. And if you take it back to the beginning of the New Age movement, Alice Bailey, the Lucius Trust, Helena Blavatsky, she actually wrote a book called The Externalization of the Hierarchy. And what that is about is the exposing the inner workings of the mechanism, you know, the revelation of the method, you know. So they want us to know what is going on. They want the truth to get out there because the gamble they're taking is that people will see just how corrupt this system is. They'll become aware of the pedophilia. They'll become aware that all the governments are corrupt and all these things are happening, but they'll continue to go along with it. You know what I'm saying? And by continuing to go along with it, we become willing participants in the pedophilia, in all the slavery and all the human trafficking. And by doing that, we willingly condemn our own souls. So that's why they need us to know what they're doing, because, you know, the human race is so apathetic now. They've dumbed us down so much. They've got the police so brutal and everyone is so much in fear that people will be aware of what's going on, but they'll just continue to pay their protection money. They'll just continue to pay their taxes and they'll go along with the system. Like I said earlier, what if the important part is how you die? You know, what is the moral state that you're in? How far are you prepared to take, and how much are you prepared to take, and how much corruption are you prepared to become aware of before you choose not to participate in that corruption anymore? You know, so that's why when you look at that, the 9/11 truth movement, why did they make 9/11 so obvious? Because they were fishing. They wanted to see who was away. They could have made that so much less obvious. They could have actually gotten away with doing it. So we believed it. But so many people could see it on the day that there's something terribly wrong here. And then you had someone like Alex Jones come out there and push that, fishing, the fisher of men. Go out there and you know, with what Alex Jones did with the movies he put out and getting out there with a megaphone and all that sort of stuff, I mean, you could almost, in a way, say he was almost personally responsible for creating the entire 9/11 truth movement, and then he pulled himself away from it. So, oh, no, I didn't say that, and I didn't say that, and I didn't say that. Well, yes, you did. You put out whole movies about it. So, you know. And then he gets then he suddenly gets penalised and black banned and everything's put off there, so they show us what they're going to do, you know. So they show us how they're going to penalise the truth movie. They're going to black ban us all and all that sort of stuff. There wasn't too much outcry about that. Then they arrest Julian Assange recently, and then we see a breakdown in international treaties for whistleblowers and all sorts of stuff like that as well, asylum for whistleblowers, and people didn't really make too much noise about that. Whether Assange's a puppet or not, it's irrelevant. It's how the legislation is being played. So you look at all this stuff, it's been a fishing exercise. The whole truth movement has been a fishing exercise. The whole 9/11 truth movement was certainly a fishing exercise, and I think Alex Jones had a lot to do with that. You know, they've been tracking everybody through the internet. They needed to find out where we all are. The internet, the international nets. What do you do with the net? What do you do with the web, the World Wide Web? What is it for? It's for catching things. What do you do with the net and the web? You know, so everything that you've ever done online is still there, even back in your old MySpace pages. Every post you made on MySpace, and then you went back and you edited that post. It's still there before the edits. Every edit is there. Everything you've ever done online has been collected and correlated. And they needed something like the 9/11 truth movement and the actual truth movement to be spawned, so you get tabs on everyone. And now with the censorship and the algorithms, they're basically sweeping the truth aside, and now you'll see people start disappearing. And nobody will even become aware of it. And with the deep fake technology and all that sort of stuff, I mean, they could come and take me out and have deep fake on, and you could still hear me doing my radio shows, and you could even see me on videos. And they've got how many samples of my voice out there from the 300, 400 radio shows that I've done, you know. So they could create anything they want now. They can create any type of reality they want online. They have the technology to do it. And when I look at it, it's all been a fishing exercise, the whole thing.
Sadly, it really has been. Everything about us has already been surrendered by us right away. No need for some sort of mark of the beast, as many people have been alluding to. All of that has already been done via your cell phone.
Really, the cell phone and the credit card. See, I don't own a cell phone. I don't own a credit card. I've never bought anything with a credit card. I've never gone into it. I've got a debit card that I use because I need one to buy airline tickets. But I don't keep any money in that account except when I've got to buy tickets. And I've never actually gone into a shop and paid for something with a card. I've taken cash into every shop I've ever gone into. Even when I travel overseas, I pay for my hotel rooms with cash. So I've never used a credit card, and I don't use a cell phone for anything. You know, that is even people that say they're religious and Christian and stuff. I say, you know, you don't indulge in witchcraft. Have you looked at scrying mirrors and sigils for summoning demons, which all look like electrical circuitry? You know, you're carrying a cell phone around. You're using a scrying mirror. This is witchcraft under your interpretation of what it is. Okay, these are scrying mirrors. This is the beast system. If you think you're not going to ever become part of the beast system when it comes online, well, you already are. Everybody that is using this stuff is already part of that system, you know?
And very true. Even going to church and going to mass, doing all the singing, all that, that's all witchcraft as well.
Well, yeah, it's the thing. They're worshipping idols. They're doing all sorts of stuff they were told not to do. So, yeah, interesting stuff.
Anytime you even pray.
I even think that these are left there as warnings for us. You know, like when you see these sigils in use, when you see these scrying mirrors in use, you're about to summon this force, which is going to wipe you out. And I think it's happened before. I think we have cyclic cataclysms. I think we have previous civilizations that have been come before us, and I think that these civilizations are wiped out approximately every 200 years.
Now, there was another name I just remembered right now, and that is one Michael Moore. What are your thoughts and opinions on one Michael Moore?
I think he is absolutely controlled. I think he puts out very, very safe information. Again, it's the externalization of the hierarchy, showing you how corrupt it is, but just sort of going along with it, you know. And I think he's absolutely controlled. He's doing a specific agenda, and he's part of the system. He'll never give you the real truth. He'll give you just enough of it to make you aware of the corruption, but not the real truth of what's causing the corruption or how to get away from that.
My opinion on one Michael Moore does vary, but I do give him credit for producing the film Fahrenheit 9/11 and The Forced Bowling for Columbine, which I thought both were pretty good, but as time has gone by, we kind of see that Michael Moore definitely someone who took advantage of everything he was able to, and I don't exactly fault him for that, but he has become something else as of late.
Yeah. I don't think he's been completely honest with what he presents.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, definitely. But Fahrenheit 9/11, that was a great film for its time. Definitely opened the eyes of many out there, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure. But like, it didn't give you the whole story, though.
Right.
It gave you a portion of the story.
Exactly, not the whole thing. And that's another thing I was going to bring up to you. In terms of those in the so-called truth movement for 9/11, there is a group by the name of architects and engineers, and that's one of the criticisms that they do have themselves, that they sort of only give you some of the answers, but they don't exactly fully give you who's responsible or why. That's one of the major ones.
Yeah, but again, these you can kind of. I mean, I don't know if I particularly trust that crew at all, but you know, you've got to understand the logic in that as well, because once you start pointing the finger, you just, okay, well, I've made the claim, and now I've got to defend that claim. I've got to give proof, and you're just going to get into an argument with someone else who thinks it's somebody else. So, And ultimately, we don't know. We can suggest, we can theorise, but we don't know. What we do know is that the government story is completely impossible. So that should be the focus, because you're not going to know what the real truth is until you get people to understand that what we're just. It doesn't matter who you think it is. What matters is that the government story is wrong, and if we can have a proper investigation, maybe we'll find out who the real perpetrators are without the need to argue about it. So I can kind of understand that mentality. I mean, I have my own thoughts on who actually carried out those attacks. But again, I don't make that statement and make that claim.
Those claims, right?
Because it just creates arguments, and I can't prove it. And if someone thinks it's somebody else, well, now we're stuck in the details and we're arguing about the details. This is what they did. I mean, with 9/11. 9/11 was so obviously staged, but then we're halfway through actually alerting the world to the fact that it was staged, and then you had groups like architects and engineers come along and make a claim. Okay, they came down because of this. You had some people saying thermite, some people saying directed energy weapons, some people saying micro nukes. We don't know. It could have been any one of those things or all three of those things.
Right.
You're just arguing about the details rather than focusing on the fact that what the government said is wrong. That should be the details. So, we get caught in arguing over the details. It's like with these mass shootings. Was it fake? Was there blood? Was there shell casings? Was there this? Was there that? The thing was a black op, and that should be the focus. It's the same as 9/11. It was a black op. That should be the focus. It's arguing over the details. This is what they want you to do, because then you're just caught fighting amongst each other, and you're not dealing with the fact that the government did this.
Divide and conquer, another tactic.
Absolutely, on so many levels, brother. So many levels.
Understood. And yes, lots of interesting things that went on during 9/11, and of course, you do remember where you were when that happened, right?
Absolutely, I remember exactly where I was when 9/11 happened.
Oh my. What did you initially think, by the way, as soon as you saw that happen?
Well, when I first saw it, the first thing I thought was, gee, terrible pilot. Same as George Bush said. That's the first thing I thought. What the hell? How does a guy hit a building like that? But then I saw another plane fly past, and I thought, hang on, there's another plane flying around. This is not a pilot. This is a terror attack, And then the second plane went in, and like, oh my God, it is a terror attack. And then the building came down, and I went, okay, this isn't a terror attack. This is the big event we've been waiting for, because that wasn't just caused by a plane. And straight away, as soon as the building came down, I knew this was a staged event. But until that time, I thought, yeah, terror attack. Like most people thought probably. But originally I thought, wow, how on earth do you fire a plane into that building? What, was the pilot on drugs or something? What is this, How can a plane have hit the World Trade Center, So that was probably, that lasted about 5 seconds, that thought. And then I was thinking, yeah, terror attack, So, like most people, this is back in like the 2000s. This is 19 years ago now, or 2001, so 18 years ago now. But, but as soon as the building came down, as soon as it started collapsing, I just thought, no way, this is controlled demolition, this is being set up by the government, this is the big event we've been waiting for. So hold on to your hats, we're really heading somewhere with this.
I could tell you right now that I actually got in trouble that morning of September 11th, back in the day, in the classroom for just suggesting that perhaps the government had something to do with it. I was kind of seen as I was causing trouble and was told if I wanted to see the principal.
Interesting.
Yes, very interesting. And of course, we aren't even that far away from September 11th now.
I think anybody with eyes to see, as soon as the building started collapsing, they could see that this is terribly wrong. This is not possible. There is no way a building can collapse from a fire hitting it like that. And I've been to the World Trade Center. I've been up in those buildings. They are big buildings, those big steel columns on the outside. There's no way. There is absolutely no way. So, yeah, I think a lot of people got it on the day that something was not right. But I think the initial thought for most people was, oh, it's
terrible. Yeah.
Until the building came down. When it came down like that, the shock and awe of that, it was that was the beginning of the end game, absolutely.
It just seemed so unusual seeing those buildings come down that way. Both Twin Towers and Building 7.
Of course. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, it's absurd to think that a building could collapse like that from fire. Fire weakened the columns. It was right up that high in the building. How did it collapse like that at free fall speed? It doesn't make sense. And like I said, I've been up in those buildings. They are very, very strong buildings. There's no way that would have happened. It just doesn't make sense at all. And none of the physics adds up. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised they sent you up to the office, though. I mean, but they were calling Osama bin Laden within 20 minutes of the first plane hitting. You know, so you could see something was all planned. The whole thing was planned.
They seemed to know a lot really quickly, didn't they?
Unless you're going to eat it, don't.
Yeah, didn't they? And like Bill Cooper called it a couple of weeks before as well. You know, he said they've gone in and they've interviewed Osama bin Laden, so you can be guaranteed they're going to stage an event using this guy. And then 2 weeks later, they do 9/11, and then Bill Cooper's dead.
That's interesting. And of course, once you think of Osama bin Laden and you think about that family and their close ties with the Bush family as well. All CIA
exactly.
time.
And they flew all the bin Laden family out of America the next day, and who got they went to war with Iraq, and who got the contract to rebuild Iraq? The bin Laden family, you know.
That's interesting. And of course, we are close yet again for another anniversary of September 11th, and the media, very, very quiet about it, my friend. No one is really even talking about
I'm actually due for an interview that day, so it'll be interesting. I'll be in LA on September the 11th, the day before I fly to Philadelphia. I arrive there on the 10th, and I leave on the 12th, and I've got an interview that evening on September the 11th, so it'll be an interesting conversation.
It definitely will be. And, of course, what conference are you going to out here in LA, by the way?
No conferences in LA. I'm just, it's a cheap port. It's a cheap entry point to the United States. It's actually cheaper for me to fly into LA and then get a return flight across the country to Philadelphia and then back to Australia than it is to fly direct from Australia to Philadelphia and return.
Oh, very interesting. Okay. Yeah, you're going to like it.
I've just learned that with travel. I've learned that there's certain ports you can fly into: LA, Las Vegas, Amsterdam, London, Madrid, cheap ports if you're traveling. If you're getting airline tickets and booking airline tickets, there's certain countries you can enter at certain places, and you'll always get it. You'll save sometimes $500 or $1,000 on your ticket because it's a common port. So I've learned this from years of travel. So when people are booking me flights around the place, I always tell them to check certain ports for prices. So
smart.
Yeah, it was actually a lot cheaper. So $400 cheaper for me to fly in via LA.
Oh, that's smart then. And of course, if you are out there in LA, definitely drop in a dispensary and pick up some edibles for yourself there.
I usually do that.
Hell yes. It definitely will make the trip a lot better, my friend. And, that sort of thing is very acceptable out here. And even now, you don't even have to go to a physical dispensary. You can actually just call a delivery service out there.
Yeah, that's handy. I'll probably be looking at that when I get there.
Oh, yes. It's much more convenient. That's what I do love about living in California. Most things are just a phone call away. What a world we live in.
Yeah, interesting. I was amazed when I went over there. Like, you can buy weed. It looks like makeup jars. It's all very, very
high-end, fancy.
Well done and nicely presented and all sorts of stuff, You're in other countries, you've got to sneak around and buy a little dealie bag behind a pub somewhere,
Jeez, yeah. Before I let you go, I definitely wanted to ask you about that sort of thing in Australia. That must be pretty damn difficult to do that sort of thing there.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But I know some people, so, I get a reasonable supply.
Hell yes.
And I usually get it sort of delivered to my home and, it lasts me a while, so I don't really deal with that sort of things. I don't really have to deal with black market or anything like that. So, I get it pretty cheap, and I know the right people, and I grow what I can, so it's not good.
Right on, man. Well, I definitely loved having you here. I really enjoyed our conversation, and of course, I would definitely recommend anyone out there listening to this to go check you out at any sort of conference or anything. It seems like you definitely like to do a bit of crowd work and do a little bit of improv when you go out there. And I love that sort of thing. It really does make everyone feel more attached to you, Max. It lets people really get to know you, especially when you're on stage for a few minutes there and you're just firing off your thoughts. People love that sort of thing.
Well, I hope so, and hopefully it encourages them as well to realise that, like I say, you don't have to be anybody special, in inverted commas, to make a difference. You've just got to be prepared to talk. And I want people to know, like, 'cause you get so many people who sort of look up to you as a guru or whatever, and I really want people to know I'm not a guru. I'm not anything special. I'm just like you. I've been through all the same shit that everybody's been through, and that's why when I'm at these conferences, I'm always out in the crowd. And like at an Acapulco, I was out wandering around with the people all the time. I'm always available to people to come and talk to, and because I want them to see that, what you hear on the radio show, this isn't someone putting on any of these airs and pretending to be something. This is just who I am. And there's no pretense in it, and there's no reason to think that you can't make a difference if you're just prepared to speak and make your voice heard and be a good person. Like I said, be the type of friend you want to have as a friend. Be the sort of person that you want to be around. And if you do that for people, it rubs off on them, and then perhaps they will go out and they'll become the change that they want to see in the world as well. So that's what it's all about,
Yes, and
thanks for having me on, brother. It's been a pleasure to come and talk to you. I let go of a bit of stuff that I've never shared before.
Like I said,
thank you for letting me do that.
I really do appreciate that, and that's what it's all about here on this program. I definitely do take notes on certain things I want to cover, but all of that goes out the window. This definitely becomes an improv program. And Max, it's been a complete honor and just privilege to talk to you and have a real conversation with you here. And of course, your website, thecrowhouse.com. Definitely go check out Max's work and go listen to the man. Max has been doing great work for many, many years. Max, go ahead and plug anything you'd like to plug, any upcoming events. The floor is yours, my friend. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, anything you need to find out about me, if you want to contact me or anything, you can go to my website, thecrowhouse.com. Like I said, I'm going to be speaking in Philadelphia on the 13th, 14th, and 15th of September at the Anarchadelphia Conference. You can just search Anarchadelphia online and you'll find that. I'm going to be speaking on the 27th of September at the Avatars of the Earth Gathering in Mount Shasta. And I'm probably going to be, I'll be hanging around in LA from maybe the 16th until probably the 25th, with just kind of at a loose end, just kind of kicking back and not doing anything. So if anybody in LA wants to catch up and say hi, you could probably send me an email and we'll probably catch up for lunch or do whatever in LA while I'm there. But I'll be there. I'll have about 10 days to kick back.
Nice.
In mid-September, if anyone wants to hang out and come and say hi, and we'll just see what happens. So that's something else to think about as well. But thanks very much for having me on, brother. Always a pleasure to come and talk to you. We'll do it again sometime soon.
Yes, sir. Did you have fun?
Yeah, absolutely. A very enjoyable conversation.
Clockwise, my friend. We'll do it again in the near future, and take care of yourself out there, and mahalo, my friend.
Back at you, brother. Talk soon.
All right. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And there he goes, ladies and gentlemen. A little bit of a delay there when we were talking, but that's going to happen when you are in a...
For the third day in a row, as of September 2nd, Gaia has been inside a stream of high-speed solar wind coming from a hole to make us whole on the sun's surface. Episodes of G2 class storming have brought in auroras and northern lights in the U.S., as far south as Wisconsin, Michigan, and Montana. The wind speeds have been hovering around 700 kilometers a second during these last 3 days as well, with the average being in the 300 kilometers a second range, according to spaceweather.com. These kinds of speeds are difficult for us to even comprehend, and sometimes the connection to these far-off cosmic events can feel distant from our everyday lives. I've been guided to offer a bridge to these celestial occurrences to what you might be experiencing on emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual levels. This bridge allows us to feel how our inner cosmos is inherently connected to the outer cosmos. The universe lives inside of our every cell. As above, so below. August was a highly catalytic month of energies, with Lionsgate providing a direct line to higher frequencies of soul clarity, higher dimensional aspect connection, and activation of ascension chakras and our light bodies. There is a sense of revelation and unveiling of your higher timeline life and self. The richness of this reality coming through in new synchronicities, connections, inner and outer, and opportunities. Along with this, there are realizations of where you are now, what worlds you are navigating between, and what your transition may look and feel like into your higher timeline. Moving now into September, and with these solar winds, there is a feeling sense of taking action and making choices based on that higher timeline. Making the outer choices unfolds and the inner realities shifting. Making the choice to change unfolds organically as you feel inside a de-thawing from 3D birth family conditioning, as you unplug from the 3D lower 4D matrix, as you heal from karmic bind cycles that keep you looping and suffering, and as you understand and explore bleed-throughs from other lifetimes. Feeling through these things can be quite challenging at times. Feelings of not wanting to be here anymore, giving up, hopelessness, distrust and mistrust, isolation and loneliness, just fear can come up as parts of you let go of the previous configurations. Working with and connecting to these parts of you directly and consciously allows space to be held with them in this process. If you just become their feelings of despair and loneliness, it can be quite overwhelming. There is no one home then to keep these parts of you company as they let go of the only safety lines they've ever known, no matter how toxic these safety lines are, especially in the form of relationships. Everything is being heightened with these energies coming in now in 2019, preparing us to move into a higher frequency experience of ourselves and all of life in 2020. Feelings that have been much more in shadow, subconscious, or deemed not socially acceptable, such as rage, shame, resentment, are coming up now to be felt, embraced, and to ultimately allow for understanding the reasons why they are there. All feelings and emotional states exist for a reason inside of us. They are the result of wounding from traumas experienced in this life and other lifetimes. They are portals of self-discovery as we allow them to be and discover why they exist. As feeling and emotional states are being heightened, also our karmic frequencies and traumas from other timelines and lifetimes, especially those in more 4D frequencies. Timelines such as Atlantis and Lemuria during the fall, ancient Egypt, Avalon, Camelot, the Essenes, etc., are all coming through to be felt and healed by us. Connecting directly with the metasoul aspect and fragment that is experiencing these timelines and their pain helps to move it and heal it, differentiating what you are experiencing that is actually coming from another timeline can be really helpful. Our physical bodies are feeling the impact too, as what is denser in our cellular memory, in our diets and our ways of life, are wanting to be detoxed out through self-loving practices. This may be causing more physical discomfort for you, flare-up, heightening of chronic conditions in your body. Our bodies are wanting to unanchor from the denser conditionings of 3D, from digesting toxic energies in our foods. These higher timeline expression, their higher timeline expression is as a vital, healthy, moving into immortality light bodies, serving as our vibrant macabras, providing multi-dimensional travel.
a constitutional and economic international trade terrorism implemented through political dictatorship. Has everyone forgotten that we are all free peoples and are to be living in free democratic countries and societies? What happens when the governments, judiciary, and politicians are the ones committing seditious conspiracies and fraud, which culminates in treasonous acts against the sovereigns of the land, the Indigenous nations, and Canadian citizens continuously? What happens when it is obvious that both the Canadian government and the judiciary both conspire to purposefully ignore the collective and public rights of the Canadian people within the repatriation of the Canadian Constitution in 1982? What happens when those we entrust with drafting a constitution for the people place a queen to act as sovereign only to remove those rights from the very people who trusted and elected them to represent the people instead of the oligarchy they seem to be on their knees to serve? What happens when the Canadian justice system allows a government elected by a free people for the people to create or repatriate a constitution that removes the sovereign public rights of the free people as a whole, living in a free democratic country and society without the expressed authority of the people to do so, whom the judiciary and the governments are to represent? What are Canadians to do when they vote politicians into power for 4 years, thinking that now their voices might finally be heard, but denied by the very people they have placed into power within an unknowingly debilitated system fraught with corruptive influence to purposely allow the extreme corruption that exists and of which the many can clearly see today and further repeated in other countries worldwide? These measures undertaken by the judiciary and the governments of Canada, the provinces, municipal and band council arms of government, past and present, were purposefully set up to destroy the people's rights and sovereignty by transferring all of the authority and power of the people to a political corporate cabal, fraudulent system of governance for complete control. Even when the political cabal changes their colors every 4 years, those placed within the governing system itself remain, and nothing truly changes. The only thing that does change are the political faces dancing to the same hypnotic chant of lies and deceit, continuously maintaining their control over the very people they are to serve and obey into their hypnotic trance, then adding insult to injury by calling this good governance. Everything the governments accuse those who are trying to protect their country and their rights of doing, under new terrorism terminology, are doing it themselves to the very people they are supposed to work for. All levels of Canadian governance are the terrorists here, not the people trying to protect our country. What can we, the people, do now? There is a solution for those no longer in the trance of voting away your rights to the political cabal. Through lawfully instilling our rights as a free people in a free democratic society, then please join the Canadian People's Union and our constitutional public interest class action today to help us make a difference as time is running short before the next election at myfreedom2017.com or thepowershift.ca. And remember this, the world government is already here and waits for no one. It's up to each Canadian to do their part in stopping global governance, corporate terrorism, to save our country. Thank you. There we go. So, how's Australia today?
It's good. It's a cool winter's morning, but it's good. It's probably not really a winter's morning to you, but it is to me. But yeah, it's good. It's good. It's all good as far as it can be. With the we have the same government system we've got there, so it's as good as it can be.
Exactly, and it's kind of funny because you are Monday morning, and I'm sitting here and it's Sunday evening. So it's almost like Back to the Future and to the past for both of us, which is kind of ironic and interesting all at the same time.
Yeah, I'm in the future, you see. I come from the future. That's how come I know all this stuff.
Well, that's why we need you on board here. So, anyways, in regards to, I want to thank you again for doing this show with us. We have some people out on Facebook that have been waiting for you and for us to have this chat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and just share this a little bit and be able to see what some of the questions people are going to be asking. And then what I'll do is I'll send you the video once it's done, a link to it so that you'll be able to see and see what how the people reacted. So I'm kind of, how can I say, doing radio hosting. Usually I just go ahead and speak myself, but it's not something that I like doing. So you'll have to forgive my, how can I say, I'm kind of a newbie at doing these radio shows. So I'm going to kind of give you the floor here in regards to what's happening with 5G in Australia. Then we can talk about what's happening here in Canada. And I have that video if we'd like to at some point show the people in regards to what the doctors in Canada are trying to do. However, they're saying that, the conversation with 5G is pretty much over and they're going ahead with it. So that's where it stands here in Canada.
Well, that's pretty dangerous and pretty bad. We're having a reasonable amount of success here in Australia due to our criminal code. Each state we have a criminal code here and what constitutes an assault under the Australian criminal code. You might find you've got something similar in Canada, some sort of a criminal code. What you need to do is go and determine what determines an assault against you, what constitutes an assault against you. Under the Queensland Criminal Code, the state that I live in, an assault can be any type of interference in your life, which is physical, emotional, or electrical. That's good that they put electrical in there. And so we are able to use this as a way of combating this 5G. So the way it is you should be enabled to quiet enjoyment in the comfort of your own home. You'll find this in most countries. There's some sort of a clause there that you're able to, if you're in your own space, quiet enjoyment in your own space. If you can't have that, then what have you got? That's your quality of life. So anything that's interfering with your quiet enjoyment, which is an assault against you. So if you're not able to live in quiet enjoyment, if you're sitting in your house and you are in fear of a telco pole which is outside your house because it's producing dangerous electromagnetic radiation, this constitutes an assault against you. You're now no longer able to live your life in quiet enjoyment, and so that assault needs to be removed. And that's the way we're doing it. And it's actually successful. We've been having success with it. And the way we're doing it is realising the assault charges apply to everybody. It's not just the telco company that is producing the signal. It's also the person who's allowed it to be put onto their land, and it's also the politician who is legislated that this is possible. A politician can't just write down a legislation to say you can be under assault. This person can put you under assault. And that's what they're doing with this 5G. So we've been using that, and we've been having a pretty good success rate with it. We're also working to have it stopped in schools because of the assault against school children, which is happening. And we've actually got council members even coming on board with it now, like in Sydney and Melbourne, because we're finding the council chambers where these ministers who are pushing all this stuff, they're actually fighting against this now in the council chambers. And they're thinking, well, what is it? It's these telco towers that are outside the building. So now some of the councils are actually getting on board with it as well. I mean, this is a human problem. The people inside government have forgotten that they're human is the problem. They're just supporting this globalist agenda. And many of them have forgotten that it's actually affecting them as well. And when they start getting sick, they start paying attention. That's what's happening here. So yeah, we've been having a pretty good amount of success with it. That's, this whole thing, people have to realise that's what this is. This is an assault against you. It's like you said in the intro, the government's there to serve us. They're just people. We don't have to do what they say. They have to do what we say. That's what we employ them to do, to manage infrastructure for us in a responsible manner. They can't just blanket dictate to say, you have to do this. They do it and we just go, oh, gee, I don't really want to, but okay, I will. There's not enough of that. Stand up for yourselves, people. Stand up for our backbone and call these people out for what they're doing and demand answers from them. And ask them why they should have the right to assault you, because that's what this is. This is assault.
Have you heard anybody do that, Owen?
And assault can take many forms. And if you're not able to live your life in quiet enjoyment, if you believe you are under assault, constant assault, well, you need to do something about that. And you will find that you've got leading men to do something about it. And it's kind of using the system against itself for people who believe that the system is real. So that's what we need to do.
Yes, definitely. We did a seminar where I'm at. And we had Dr. Reidou from Montreal, who's done a lot of research on 5G and cancer cells and all of this, and he's just in an uproar. And unfortunately, not very many people showed up, which was too bad because he's got some amazing information. And his presentation was great. So anyways, I know that right now they're having this 5G, what's it called, 5G Crisis Summit with people from all over the world. They're doing this online. It was starting tonight. And actually, tonight or tomorrow, 26th to, I think, the 4th of September. And this is going to be all specialists speaking every evening in regards to this. So, like in the States, again, the States have tried to stop it, but they have a law dating back to 1998 on this, saying that when they're coming out with the technology, there's nothing they can do. So this is where the government's...
Write that on paper.
Pardon?
They should write on paper and call it a law. But like I said, there's laws before that. There's laws saying you can't be assaulted. They can't just legislate. You're rolling this out anyway. There's nothing you can do about it. Well, who the hell are you? Who gave you the ability to do that? Who gave you the ability to just write down on paper that you can assault me and claim that it's law? Because it's not law. That's what we have to understand. These people just make up stuff they want to do. They just write it down on paper and say, "Oh, it's a law now." Well, if that's the way, a paper-based reality is that we're living in a paper-based reality. Like I said to you before the show, if that's the way it is, if it's a paper-based reality, well, do you support the state of Israel? Because Israel is carrying out war crimes against Palestine at the moment. Whether you support Jews or Muslims, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant what side you support. The fact is, this is a state carrying out war crimes. You're in support of that state, which makes you a war criminal under Nuremberg. So if this is a paper-based reality, it's a piece of paper called the Geneva Convention that says you're a war criminal. What gives you the right to be making laws anyway? If this is a paper-based reality, let's discuss your validity to even inflict this on me. That's the attitude people have to have. Because if this is a paper-based world where you can just write stuff down, well, you're a war criminal. You're a war criminal, so you need to leave, and we'll put someone in there who's responsible. That's the attitude people have to have. And don't back down to these people. We've got a bunch of criminals running the world. It's one big worldwide crime family. And they're rolling this 5G out. It's about the Internet of Things. It's about surveillance. It's a weapons system. We don't want it. No is no. It's as simple as that. We do not want this to happen. And if our government, which is a democratically elected government, is going to inflict this on us, then we, the people, are going to rally the people of this nation to express a loss of confidence in your government's ability to govern and take the necessary steps to have you not only dismissed, but investigated for your crimes against humanity. That is the attitude people have to have, and don't back down.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the stance we're taking in a roundabout way here. What we've done is I've created a Citizens Convention of Consent because the judiciary has said that they can't say anything about our choice of political system. It's up to the people. Well, in our Constitution, the Constitution does not give us any power other than personal human rights, where if we come up against the government, well, we have to prove on how it personally affects us and not the collective as a whole. So because we're not included as a collective, this is how they get around it. And we'd have to have 51% of the Canadian people to sign a collective agreement, another paper, to state that we want the system to change to our direct democracy rights, which is one vote each on all issues. And that's our right. And the Supreme Courts have said so much.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great idea. The problem is that most people are too lazy to want to be involved. They just want the world to change. They want to say, yeah, that's a great idea. You go and vote and send me the newsletter to let me know the world's changed so it's safe to go outside now. That's the problem with most people. They want to see something like this, but they don't want to be involved. You've got a population which is fluoridated, chemically dumbed down, lulled into apathy by television and all sorts of stuff, caught running on the treadmill, trying to pay their... They don't care what's going on around them. They just want to leave me alone in my little bubble so I'm safe here. Just don't, I don't want to know. Just tell me when the world's safe again. That's unfortunately the attitude of most people.
I know.
So, it's a very, very difficult situation that we're in here. And people have to realise that these governments are out of control and that this constitutes an assault. This whole 5G thing constitutes an assault, and we don't have to do it, and no is no. And people have to stand up for it. I mean, if this isn't going to rally the people, I don't know what will, because this is something that affects absolutely everybody. And, we've had a huge outcry about it. A lot of people are aware of it now. And the government's saying, well, this is just the way it's going to be. Well, if that's the way it's going to be, then we're going to have you dismissed. It's as simple as that. That's what has to happen. People have got to do this. They've got to make this stand.
Yeah, but again, legally, it's really hard because there's no laws. They've made laws to where they can't even listen to the people, because then it's classified as they're playing favoritism if they listen to you. So
you can do it individually as well. Like get medical reports, or you go to the Bioinitiative report, bioinitiative.org. I think the name of the website is. Have a look at the Bioinitiative report on electromagnetic radiation. Go to a doctor and just say, get a report. Is electromagnetic radiation bad? Of course it is, because you leave the X-ray room when you X-ray someone, so of course electromagnetic radiation is bad. That's all you need. It's damaging to human health. Therefore, this tower constitutes an assault. Therefore, you are legislating that this telco can assault me. Therefore, you are legislating assault. Therefore, you are liable for assault. Justin Trudeau, whoever it is who wrote the legislation, you are liable for an assault. And if you've written legislation to protect yourself, then again, we need to rally the people and express a loss of confidence in your government. Because these are legal terms: loss of confidence, dismissal. These are you can use to express your distaste of what government's doing. You can simply dismiss your government if enough people express a loss of confidence in that government's ability to govern. It doesn't matter what they wrote on their constitution. You've got no confidence in them. They can go away. They're not doing their job. The people have no confidence in the government, so the government becomes invalid at that point. And that's the attitude people have to have. Now, you've got to realise that this whole system is fiction anyway. There's legal ways through it. Sure, there'll be legal things we can do, but ultimately, it's all fiction anyway. The legal stuff, it's only for people who believe the legal system is real and believe the legal system means something. You can reach the sleeping masses with that. But what we're facing here is a loss of self. It's a loss of who and what we are. Why would I allow you to inflict yourself upon me? Who are you? Who are you to be able to do that? Where's a contract bearing the wet ink signature of God, which gave you possession of this vessel that I inhabit, please? Because you're just in the same position as I am. You're just a consciousness in a vessel. Somehow thinks you have a right of ownership over me, and you don't. That's what needs to happen. You've got to take it to that level. Until we get to that level, there's no real way out. There's things we can do, like you say, create these parties, sorts of things, and go into the system and try to do it that way. All you're really going to succeed in doing is hopefully waking people up. But there's going to be no remedy from within the system. The system isn't designed that way. The system needs to come down. And the only way the system will come down is when people rediscover themselves. That's hopefully what this will lead to. And once that happens, we'll change the world in a day. If people suddenly wake up and went, oh, God, I'm human, I actually don't have to do any of this stuff. We literally change the world in a day if people simply change their perspective. It's getting to that point, finding what it's going to be to crack the shell and get them involved in some way. But unfortunately, if you've got to rally 51% of the people, 50% of them just don't care. They just want to watch TV and eat McDonald's. That's the problem. Most of the people we're trying to save don't even care. They don't even know there's anything wrong with the world. That's the most difficult part. And you can't hate them for it. It's just the way they're programmed to think. So we're facing a pretty uphill battle, but we are making a difference. We are making a difference by simply being that. Being like, you are already sovereign. If you choose to stand in that, you're already sovereign. If someone's claiming you're not sovereign, please ask them to provide you with proof of claim, irrespective of what they wrote on paper, because none of the stuff they wrote on paper is valid anyway. It's not possible for you to have a valid contract with government. I mean, there was no full disclosure. There was no meeting of the minds. There was none of this stuff that is necessary for a contract. They didn't even tell you what the all capitals text meant. They didn't even tell you that it was dog Latin, that it isn't even valid English. They didn't tell you any of this stuff. So, forget all their contracts and forget all their legislation and all that stuff. It's all fiction anyway. If we choose to rediscover ourselves, it will all go away. It's just finding the means to do that, using the legal system and using parts of it to crack that shell in people. Unfortunately, you have to lead them through that way, but there's going to be no remedy in the system. There's going to be no remedy in paper, ultimately, at all. It's a freaky thing, but that's the truth of the matter,
Yeah,
it's just
well,
a means to get there,
Yes, and I agree. I mean, this is all about our self-consciousness, and change is going to start with us, each individual, and at an individual level, because we're seeing the same thing here. People want to be taken care of. They want somebody else to do all the work, and they don't want to do nothing for it. Some are worried, others not. Somebody's going to fix it. You don't have to worry about it. It'll fix itself. And that's the attitude. And we're seeing this in every country worldwide. France, the same thing, even with the Yellow Vest movement. We've come up and tried to talk to some of the heavy-duty lawyers, only to find out that they're part of the problem. So,
they're all sworn to the bar. It's a stacked deck. You go into the legal court, and the judge works for the government, the prosecutor works for the government, the lawyer works for the government. But that's the thing. You go into the court system, and you're not going in there as a human being. You're going in there as a chattel. We go in there. We say, well, this is my name. It's written in all capitals. So you're basically saying I'm an idiot who can't spell or read. This guy's going to talk for me, my lawyer, because I'm too stupid to talk for myself. So you go in there and you just basically say, look, I'm an idiot and I want this guy to sort everything out for me. I can't even read or spell or speak for myself. I'm that incompetent. So you're basically going, as soon as you claim that that's your name in all capital letters, you've said you're incompetent. You can't read. And you're using dog Latin, which is the language of the dead. It's a debased form of text. It's not even your name. Your name isn't written that way. There is no word in English that's spelled in all capitals. So, it's not even a valid form of text. That's the problem. Even using the legal system in that way, you've handed yourself over to all these people who all work for the same people. They all work for the bar. They've all sworn allegiance to the bar. It's a stacked deck. You're going in there and saying, I'm an idiot, and I want you to sort it out for me. That's what we do when we enter into a courtroom. I go into courtrooms and I go into a courtroom and people will say, are you going to represent yourself? And I'll say, no, I am myself. I don't need to represent myself. I am myself. I want to know who you people are and why you think you have a right of ownership over me. And what is this text? I mean, can you show me a valid styles manual, an English styles manual you used to compile this document? You can't. Who are you people? Why do you think you have a right of ownership over everybody? That's the problem. It's the problem. That's why there is no legal remedy. There will never be any legal remedy. The whole legal system is fiction. There's only one law, and that's natural law, moral law. That's the only thing that's going to change the world is a moral revolution,
Yeah, but that doesn't exist in the reality of today. And this is why, even given, the capital letters, when I look on my birth certificate, it's not capital letters, and nobody in Quebec's is either. Our first one is capitalized, and the rest are all small letters. So we can't go by that fact. But if you look at it another way, the government has no choice but to come back and tell us about our money they are spending. Okay? And they're always answerable to the public. So in reality, we're governed under corporate law. Corporate law states, okay, that we are actually shareholders. Okay? And that's why we vote. Because we vote, we all get a vote, to bring in our politicians in. But they only give us the right to vote for our next dictator. Where the courts have said to the Canadian government, the Supreme Court, did say that even our Constitution, there's a section 31 in our Constitution that does not give them the right to only give us the right to only vote on in elections or participate in them to get elected. We have more rights than that. And basically what the Supreme Court told them was that eventually somebody's got to figure it out. So this is what I claim.
That's what you need to do. And it is interesting that we are shareholders. We're all shareholders. If you vote, you're a shareholder. This is the way my sister actually didn't want to vote anymore. See, I don't vote. I'm not registered. I just don't want anything to do with these people. And my sister decided she didn't want to vote one day. So she actually wrote to the government and said, well, if you want me to be the custodian of this name and to vote, that makes me a shareholder in your company. So I'd like my dividends. I'd like to, if you haven't got my bank account details, well, here's my bank account details. So you can pay me my dividends every year. And I require payment from back when the arrangement first started. And they took her straight off the electoral roll, because she identified herself as a shareholder in the company. See, every person in Canada, if you vote, you should be being paid dividends from that corporate profit every year of that company.
Bingo. And this is what people have to focus on, because it's all corporate law. Okay, and under corporate law, we are considered, because we're not named in it, then we would be considered minority shareholders. But there's also a law of oppression under corporate law, where one person out of 36 million can turn around and bring that to court and say, hey, you've gone against, you're selling away my country. We never agreed to globalization. You have no right to touch our money for bringing us into a globalization and taking away our nationality and our national rights, to accept international law to override our national rights. So this is what I'm banking on. Okay,
well, that's a good way to do it. It's a good way to get through it. That's what I said, using the system against itself to wake the people up to the fact that it's all fiction anyway. It's just these loopholes and all this rubbish they write on paper, which we think constrains us, but actually it's very different. And if you can just rediscover yourself, you can find the way through it. And that's exactly what you're doing. So that's great. I mean, these are all a means to an end, and this is what we've got to do to wake up the sleeping masses. That's why you can't be too extreme in any of this stuff. Even with what I say, I mean, I'm completely against the whole legal system. But at the same time, I can see the need to use the legal system, because most of the people out there think it's real. And you come along as like this big sovereign guy on this white knight, and everyone thinks you're crazy. I think this guy is delusional, because it's too far outside the way they think. So there's a certain process that needs to be followed to get people back to a point where they are sovereign, where they just realise that they are sovereign. So it's a process.
Well, see, us in 1982, 1931, the Statute of Westminster freed everybody, all of the colonial countries, well, at least ours anyway, and Australia, New Zealand, all of these places, South Africa. But at that time, what happens is, then the governments claimed that they were in de facto possession of our countries, to set up a new government. But mind you, in 1952, they added the Queen as our sovereign. They made her the Queen of Canada.
It's kind of different here. I mean, when they arrived here with the charter, when they arrived, I mean, Governor Phillip, I think it was, he wasn't even supposed to claim this country for the Queen. As soon as he stuck that stick with a rag hanging off it in the sand and said, I claim this country for England, he was in breach of his charter. There's two mobs here. There's two peoples here. There's the British colonisers, and there's the Aboriginal people who still have sovereignty in their own land, even under the British law. And they did it all wrong. They've done the whole thing wrong. And what's happened in Australia is in 1921, changed the constitution, and the politicians essentially stole the country from the crown. England has kind of lost possession of Australia. It's got possession only really in name. The politicians have stolen the country, and we're virtually in a dictatorship now in Australia. And there's people like Senator Rod Colton and a few people have gone before the Privy Council and said, hey, you've just lost the country here. These people have stolen it. So he's trying to wake the Crown and the Queen up to the fact that that's what's happened. So, I mean, whether that's a good thing, I mean, at least exposes the criminal politicians. I mean, we don't want to give it back to the Queen, though.
Well, I mean, the way all of the countries, this was a global coup d'etat with representative democracy. That's what representative democracy is. Proportional representation is the same thing. As long as the people have no rights, then that is a dictatorship, and it is a coup. through proportional representation. You vote for your politician and give away your proxy for 4 years.
Yeah. And it's a worldwide thing, like you say. So anything that the Crown has touched, it's kind of created this whole mechanism right out around the world. And yeah, it's been a worldwide coup d'etat, and it's been very slow, very underhanded, beneath the surface, but it's there. And people are waking up to it, so it's good in a way. I mean, the wheels are falling off in many ways. They're trying really hard to ramp things out and push this 5G out and lock everything down. I think they're stumbling, though. I mean, they're pushing it so fast now that they're stumbling, and too many people are seeing it because they know the wheels are falling off. They're being exposed, and the danger for them is that people are actually going to grow a backbone and stand up. They're sort of gambling that they're not going to stand up, but people are, I think, standing up to it. So,
well, when we look at Canada, the research that I've been at this for 11 years, and the research that I've been doing, and because of our Indigenous nations here, that's how I started looking into decolonization, and then I find out that 1941, in Halifax, no less, the United States President and the UK Prime Minister signed an agreement to free all colonized countries, and then our own Prime Minister signed it in the UK in 1941. And then the law actually came out in 1960, and this was a legally binding agreement, and it says on it, legally binding. So Canada kept saying that we were still kind of under the British Crown when all along we weren't, to be able to make sure that they could keep stealing the lands from the Indigenous nations and keep the Canadian citizens under control. It's not hard to see when you look at the bigger picture, when you start thinking, okay, these are all corporations. And even in your Constitution, I mean, the Indigenous peoples there, it's a corporation. For their lands, they create a corporation, and it's all under that. So technically, the Indigenous nations here in Canada and in Australia, or even like New Zealand, the Maori, they are shareholders of their lands and of their assets, what the government's supposed to give them back. So when you look at it from another perspective, instead of saying, okay, it's a dead entity. No, you're a shareholder. That's where your social insurance number comes in. That gives you you are richer and more powerful than you know. Because we're supposed to be free countries. Why are we having the Queen there? And then they're saying, well, the Queen doesn't have any rights because the sovereign has no rights. And they did the same thing in the United States and France, was take away the sovereignty of the people through their republics. So in the republics, the people are the sovereigns. However, the presidents took all exclusive authority over the people especially after the World War II. So when this should have gotten back to the people. And that's how they did their coup d'etat with, they kept playing the game of representative democracy, but then they added more parties to it to make it look good, like you have a choice. So when you're seeing the whole problem there and what it is, well, they always have to answer to the public. That means we're the shareholders. The Queen is not the sovereign because we've all been free. The government cannot be the sovereign because it's a constitutional document. It's a constitutional convention where us in Canada, they're saying the Crown is a concept by constitutional convention. So the Parliament, the Senate, and the Queen and the Governor General are nothing but a paper concept. So it's a paper crown. And where's the sovereign? Oops, they decided to. And this is from a court case, a Supreme Court case. They said that the Canadian government at the time, the judiciary allowed the Canadian government not to insert the people in the Constitution because it would open up too many legal cases, and the courts wouldn't be able to handle them. That's almost not the exact phrase, but almost. And it's like, what the hell? They did that in the who was this judge to decide for the Canadian citizens in 1982?
Well, he was kind of deciding for the government. He was putting in safety measure there for the government so they wouldn't have the backlash. Yeah, it's really convoluted. The whole thing's convoluted. I mean, here in Australia, we've got a coat of arms, which isn't real. You know, you've got the actual Queen's coat of arms, which is the unicorn and the crown. We've got the emu and the kangaroo, the crown over the top, representing the Queen of Australia, who doesn't exist. So, you know, we've got the state police, the state police in Australia are actually registered as a non-organisation with Dun & Bradstreet, which is a subsidiary of the Securities and Indexes Exchange in the District of Columbia. So you've kind of got two entities here. You've got the federal